Okay, everybody, sorry for the bit of delay over here. And one of the stars of the show, well, actually the real star of the show is Dr. Mario Harper. And Spot is just a little sidelight over here, but I think you'll like Spot and the other robots. So my name is Greg Podgorski. I'm Associate Dean in the College of Science. More importantly for tonight, I chair the Science Unwrapped Committee. And as that name says, there are a whole lot of people that make these events possible, so I really want to thank all the committee members for the work they do in putting together these Science Unwrapped presentations. Mario Harper, Dr. Harper, will give a talk in our series, Science on the Horizon. And it's a curious set of events, right, that led to that title. The idea was that we would have a set of Science Unwrapped talks which would contrast to what we did last year, which is the dark side of science. And we thought we wanted to feature all the bright things as we were surely going to be out of the COVID pandemic. And the COVID pandemic will be way behind us. Well, guess again. But we're still looking at science on the bright side. And we're going to look at that tonight with the future of robotics. In Dr. Harper's talk, title is Hard Choices, Being a Robot in a Human World. And I think you'll see it's a really interesting perspective to take, that of a robot and all the difficulties it is navigating our world. Just a little pitch for Science Unwrapped. Our next talk comes up February 25th. It will be by Dr. Sarah Freeman of the Biology Department. We've scheduled Dr. Freeman's talk to occur near Valentine's Day because her thing is social bonding. And the title of her talk is From Animals to Autism, The Science of Social Bond. So there'll be another really great talk. And I'm looking forward to a great talk this evening. So a little pitch for our Science Unwrapped activities. For those of you who are Science Unwrapped aficionados, you'll know that our standard format is to have the talk and then have lots of post-talk activities. In this time of COVID, the post-talk activities haven't been possible, but we do have lots of talk, well, not lots of talks, lots of activities that are online. And I really encourage you to go check out the Science Unwrapped website and see a lot of the really cool videos that walk you through fun science activities. And in fact, we have 3 new ones that have just posted. One is Learn How to Create an Insect Collection from the College of Science Science Council. Another new one is Observe What Your Fingernails Tell You About Your Health and Nutrition. And this is one that's been created by the Health Occupations Students of America. And the final new one is Build a Balloon-Powered Car. So again, these kind of sound like fun, by the Society of Women Engineers. So I thank all our volunteers for doing that, but please check those out. Before I introduce Mario, what I want to do is say that for people viewing at home, please submit your questions as they come up, either during the talk or after. There is a little icon that you'll see in the upper right of your screen. Click on that, type in your question, but here's the trick. Don't go out of that chat feature until you see the message, the moderator has joined the chat. If you don't wait, your question won't be present, it'll be lost. So please be a little patient on that. So let me introduce our speaker, Dr. Mario Harper. I've had the privilege actually of meeting Mario just a few days ago, and it really has been a pleasure. Mario's a set of interesting sort of facts and interesting story. So his roots at USU run deep. And in fact, they run deep enough that there's a conception story here, I think, and that is Mario's mother came to USU as an exchange student from Japan. Mario's father happened to meet Mario's mother here at USU. And the newly married couple traveled back to Japan. Mario, I believe, was born in Japan. Am I right? Or born in the States? Born here, but then you grew up, spent your early years in Japan. Mario came back to the States with his family and spent time through high school years in California, and then came to Utah State, where Mario got a whole set of degrees. So he's majored in physics and economics. He has minors in math and Japanese. He graduated USU in 2014. After graduation, he went on to Florida State University, where he earned both a master's and a PhD in computer science, both degrees specializing in robotics. It looks like Mario stayed there, but not quite stayed there all the time. Mario did a postdoc at MIT. He then went on to work at a kind of joint government-private venture, the Robotics Collaborative Technology Alliance, for 2.5 years, where he was a technical lead. Actually had quite a team of people working with him. You said at one time about 50 people. But Mario decided that he would use his economics degree and his math, okay, and he went on to work in the finance sector for about 2.5 years, working in data science on Progressive, for a company called Progressive, but on autonomous decision-making algorithms for finance. Mario got bored and decided that it was time to switch careers again. This time he realized how much he loved teaching and academia, and he came back to USU. Came back here about 2 years ago in 2020. We are lucky to have him in the computer science department. He almost made a terrible mistake and went to BYU, but fortunately he saw the light and he's back here with us at USU. So we're really glad to have you, Mario. And with that, I will step out of the way and let Mario take the stage for Hard Choices: Being a Robot in a Human World. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Mario.
Aha, okay. We're in good shape. First of all, thank you so much for everyone I see from physics here. It's good to be back in the SER building. Good to be with the physicists. Sorry if I'm making too much noise downstairs. It's intentional, but I apologize for nonetheless. All right, so yes, I was thinking a lot about what I could talk about that is interesting, right? Many times, robots are interesting in and of itself, I think, but there's much to be said for something interesting that matters to us as humans. And one of the things that came to mind was, of course, what is the challenge of robotics today? And almost all the challenge of robotics comes from us. We are the difficulty that robots have to solve. So today we're going to talk all about what it means to walk around and move in a human world. So I already got the introduction, so I don't need to talk too much about myself. I'm Dr. Mario, and that is probably sufficient for now. All right, so 3 things I want to talk about today before we go on too much. First, decision making. We're going to talk a lot about decision making because it's hard. And it's hard for us. It's hard for us as humans. It's hard for robots. And I want to talk about uncertainty. How do we realize we don't know, right? So many of us try to make decisions every day, and we make them just fine, even when we're faced with almost no prior knowledge. Now, sometimes we make very bad decisions. We call them dumb decisions, but we make them nonetheless. And finally, what does it mean to take action? What does it really mean when we have to act in the world? So those are the three basic things we're going to talk about. And here is the fundamental dilemma. And just keep this dilemma in mind as we talk this evening. For just a few minutes we talked about it. And some of the demonstrations we show, we will illustrate this. But it's hard to think. It is really hard to think. You know, everyone here has made tough choices in life. And you know how hard those choices were to make. So just keep that in mind as we look at some of these very, very dumb systems, trying to make the best choices that they can with their very limited brains. All right, so as we get started, I want to talk to you about where we are right now. So where are we as humanity and robots? It used to be that industrial robots did not move that smoothly. They were very clunky. In fact, the term robotic often means clunky and moves in straight lines. Doesn't feel very smooth. Now, these industrial robots, most of these are 2022 installed robots or 2021 installed robots. They are much smoother. We have gone well beyond being able to just solve endpoint problems. We can now solve for the velocity, so we can make sure the robots have a continuous velocity. We can solve for a much higher order to make sure robots are very smooth, much like people. And you can see over here, it's still number one in the last 3 years. If you combine them, electronics and automotive are kind of vying for first place. This is 2022. Most people here are buying a lot of electronics. Not maybe necessarily here, but a lot of people are buying electronics. And for those of you who are trying to buy up more video cards, stop it. I'm trying to get a hold of a video card for a long time. Stop buying them. But electronics, it requires very, very fast, small-scale robots. We need automotive robots. But look at a couple of new ones, right? The food industry and a couple of others, pharmaceuticals. We're starting to see robots pervade more and more into places that are not typically where robots live. Why? Well, this is sort of why. Traditionally, industrial robots shouldn't be around people. They are big, they're scary, they're fast, and they can accidentally smooch you. We want to avoid that. Smooching is a very bad thing for humans, and for robots, for that matter. Now, as we start to look at new kinds of robots, though, more and more emphasis has been put on how do we get robots closer to people? How do we make collaborative robots? And this is an intriguing problem, right? Do we make them smaller, less fast, less capable? Do we make them more intelligent? How do we make robots become collaborative? We're doing a little bit better, but we're still wildly low compared to the industrial sector, where robots live and breathe in their own space. So let me point out two interesting new robots. So the first one I'm going to point out is a pizza-making robot. This is the first autonomous pizza kitchen, and I think it's interesting because it gets us fairly close to people. So I'll just go ahead and show you the video, but you'll notice the workspaces for the robot are very well defined.
They have dough, tomato sauce, cheese and toppings, just like the ordinary pizzas. But these ones are made by a very special baker, Patsy, the world's first autonomous pizza robot.
There it is. So you get a bit of a snapshot there. 3 arms, effectively moving along with each other, doing very precise tasks. And humans really shouldn't be anywhere in the kitchen, right? But if they are, they're not going to get squished. These are moving pizzas. So it's a little safer, and people can definitely get close to the robot to pick up the pizza at the end.
We order food.
This one is, I didn't mean to do that, back. All right, this one is a hamburger making robot. Now this one, people can get right up next to. And there's a reason for this. It's because it's all enclosed and there's nothing really moving fast.
Order food.
So Creator's a new type of restaurant, one that has one of the most advanced culinary instruments. So this baby back there, it makes literally the freshest burger ever. We slice tomatoes, pickles, onions, the bun to order, but my favorite part actually grinds the meat to order, which means we make an amazing burger, and it's $6.
This robot isn't what I had imagined. Instead of a mechanical arm flipping burgers as we've seen in the past, Creator has built a 14-foot all-in-one burger machine that uses 350 sensors and 20 computers. It takes 5 minutes to make a burger start to finish. And with 2 machines, the Creator team can make 130 burgers per hour here at their first location.
Interesting, right? A burger making machine. Now, I don't know if anyone here needs that many burgers per hour in their homes, but nonetheless, the concept is sound. And the interesting thing is the price, right? You can sell these at a competitive price. And that's another point that I have to make on behalf of the robotic community. We apologize for not making robots cheaper. They're still very expensive. We'll get there. We'll need everyone's help to do it, though. All right. So those 2 robots are working more and more with people. So we're going the right direction. But when it comes to working with people on an absolute basis, in the world that people are in, walking around with them, doing things along with them, it's a little bit more difficult. So the difficulty comes largely from two things. One is the complexity. Human worlds are terribly complex. And the second is structure. So let's take a look at this first one. This is Shibuya Station. If you've been to the Shibuya area in Japan, it's hard to miss it because there's so many people there. But in this case, I'm going to show you the video. As people on the other hand, we have other environments where it is both complex and unstructured. How would you do the autonomy, right? In a way, I mean, what it's doing right now is probably the best thing to do as an autonomous system is to stop. If there's too much uncertainty, maybe it's a wise idea to stop. And this is the human world. This is our world, no? This is the world we live in. But the problem scales in complexity when you go from something that's hard to understand. You need a lot of sensors, yes, but at least there's some fundamental law that we might be able to leverage. But if we go in a perfectly unstructured world where there is no basic law that we can follow, or maybe that basic law is very, very low, it's hard to find it, it's hidden behind a lot of things, it gets harder. So let me tell you the story of the Walmart. So there I was the other day. I needed to go into a Walmart, and the person I was going to Walmart for, they needed something to be picked up. They said, hey, there's a Walmart just down the street. Can you go pick this up for me? I'm like, oh, yeah, sure. I'm a good person. I'll do that, right? So I went in, and in my mind, Walmart looks like the one on the right, or on one on the left. Sorry, my right, your left. The Walmart's supposed to have the grocery and food section on the left-hand side. In my head, it's a law. That should be that way. Unfortunately, in this case, it was not that way, and the Walmart was actually oriented the opposite direction, which apparently is okay. So here was the problem. I had walked in with a priori. I had thought that I was walking into one kind of world, when in reality it was different. Now, it took me probably 10 seconds to soak in the difference and say, okay, fine, I can deal with it. And then maybe, I think there was like 2 or 3 times where I kind of messed up and started walking the wrong direction, and then I realized, oh, right, it's flipped over. I can fix myself. I can reorient. I don't need to look at a map, right? I can take my past knowledge, and even though my expectation was wrong, I can adapt for it. This is one of the outstanding problems of robotics right now. How do you adapt when your world model is different, but not that different? Structurally, it's really not that different, right? My understanding is it's not so different, but it actually is a problem. Now, one more complexity with humans. So we got the problem of expectations, and last of all, let's look at this video.
You broke my heart, 'cause I couldn't dance. You didn't even want me around. And now I'm back to let you know I can really shake them down. Do you love me? I can really move. Do you love me? I'm in the groove. Do you love me? Do you love me? Now that I can dance. Watch me now. Oh, work it out, baby. Well, you driving me crazy. Just a little bit soul now. I can mash potato. I can mash potato.
All right, enough of that. But here's the thing, right? When this video was posted, one of the first comments that comes up is immediately, the robots are here to take over the world. And don't worry, if you walk upstairs, you're probably safe from most robots. If you kick them, though, you're probably safe from most robots. Pour some water on them, you're probably safe from most robots. But that is a fear, right? Many people don't want to work with some robots. And to be fair, Atlas, which is this one, the Atlas III, is not exactly the most friendly-looking robot. It does look just close enough to human that you get that uncanny valley feeling, and people are like, well, I don't know about this robot. Do I really want to be there? But Mark Graber had a nice article published, and in fact, this is like the third or fourth of such article. He's like, I really hate it when people immediately assume that we're here to take over the world. Why do people do that? And I don't know the answer to that, but there it is, right? People. We and people are, that is what we are. And there are some things that we care more about than others, but the truth of the matter is, there are some problems that we must overcome as a field before robots are able to help people in a more meaningful way. Sure, they can make cars, they can make boats, they can make planes, they can do automated dock retrieval, they can do shipping, but there's some more that robots can do. And let's be honest, there are some things that we would love to have robots do in our own homes and lives, I'm sure. So, let us talk about what it means to make choices. All right. I'm going to do a quick demonstration here. So I'm going to have this robot up here help me out here. Let me show you a few things here on this robot, and then I'm going to, if one of you two can run this thing for me for a second. All right, what I'm actually holding in my hand right now is the teleoperation controller. This robot is controlled in 3 ways. One is this thing. This is a glorified Android tablet. Yes, that is what this is. Funny story about Xbox controllers. When you're working on a robot, sometimes it's easy to just piggyback off of existing control mechanisms. So you often buy Xbox controllers, which already have Bluetooth built in, and secure channel. It's easy to implement on a Windows or a PC. It's USB interface. Great, right? Except when you are trying to justify this on a grant, and someone raises the flag like, hey, why are you buying 3 Xbox controllers? What are you doing with federal funds? And you're like, I promise it's for research. We also need an Xbox Live subscription. And then they don't believe you on that one. But so let's talk about this robot. When humans, that's you and I, when we make choices, right, we kind of have 2 kinds of choice making. We make fast choices, off the cuff. We take the world around us, we take our experiences, and if someone is about to bump into you, you don't think about it. You just move out of the way, right? If someone says hi to you, you don't think about it, you just respond. And then sometimes you make very long, lengthy, deliberated choices. You think about things, you query other people, you talk to them and say, hey, over here, right, I want to buy a laptop. What laptop do you have? Do you like it? Do you not like it? And right, we think about this. Robots kind of have to do the same thing. So if I'm going to push this robot off to the side, right, the robot has to immediately make a correction. We can do that, but that's not quite the same thing we're doing. You see, robots have to either have a pre-programmed response that can immediately fire, or it has to have a controller that sits there saying, okay, robot, I will stay standing. If it's the last thing I do, I'm going to stay standing. And that is exactly what's on this right here. The fundamental level of intelligence on this robot is to keep standing. So if I push it too far, if it's going to start pushing back against me. If I try to push it down, it's going to sit there and try to hold it back up, right? It's going to try to stay standing as much as possible. Now, you get some interesting things when you do this, right? You have some fast intelligence. So I could push it around, right? I can wobble it around to and fro, and it actually starts to stay standing. It's fast thinking, right? This kind of thing is mathematically intensive. Quite a bit of math. But one small aside that I love about this, right? This thing doesn't have springs. Not a single spring. In fact, it's entirely rigid body. It's hard. Every single thing is hard. It's effectively just a big bone exoskeleton, right? Not like you and I. But we get very nice, bouncy, smooth behavior that you see because we can, in software, make a spring. we can make it springy and light and act as if it did have tendons like you and I by adding that little bit of software, right? So this is a little bit more intelligent decision making that we have to think about. So do you mind, here, Matt, I'll give this to you since you've got the laptop right now. Dozo. All right, make it do tricks. All right, have it face me if you can have it rotate. There we go. All right, so here's the next level of intelligence. Have it start walking towards me. I'm going to step in front of it. Keep letting it come forward. Right? Oh yeah, I forgot. I turned off human detection. That's okay. You see, the thing about software is you can turn things on and off. and I forgot what we were doing is that we were actually going through snow recently to see how the robot handles on new environments, right? We haven't tested it in snow and ice before, and so we were testing out our new recovery algorithms. And to do that, we actually turned off obstacles and human detection because we wanted to make sure that it didn't flounder too much and try to avoid the snow and ice. So I forgot that we turned that off. We'll have to turn that back on. So don't walk in front of it right now. But normally, we actually would have human detection. Now, human detection, here, I'll give this back to you for a second. Human detection takes a lot more thinking. You have to really think about this. So, let's see. Could you take it up the stairs, actually, just a little bit? Yeah. Anyone want to volunteer for something for me for a second? Oh, you want to volunteer? Okay, you stay right there. We'll bring the robot to you. Except we don't want to hit your laptop, so I promise that we won't. Could we bring it up to that nice lady right up there? Can you wave your hand? Perfect. Okay. Well, we're going to have the robot walk up to you. And let's see if we can make it up these stairs right over here on this side. So right now, we have what we call the tether or the leash. We are holding onto the robot. We are actually making sure that we can control the robot and it won't do anything we won't let it do. But if it's in a pure autonomy mode, there is no human in the loop. And then we have a partial autonomy mode where a human can be in the loop, but we usually don't have the human in the loop. All right, here we go. Okay, are you ready? Oh, there we go. We'll turn that. We will turn obstacle detection on. Let me see if I can turn that back on for a second here, shall I? 面白い問題だけどね。Yeah, I have to get on the computer and actually do it. If only I had a computer handy. I'm being facetious. I have computers on me all the time. Okay, ready? So here's what I want you to do. Okay, right here, you notice there's cameras all over the side of that robot. Do you see that? Yep. I'm seeing your finger right now on this screen. Isn't that kind of cool? Okay, yeah, you're waving. Hooray. All right, here's what I want you to do. I want you to reach down and try to lift up one of its legs. Just a little bit. Just like you're picking up a dog's legs and shake its leg for a second. Just a little bit. Is it letting you? No, it's not going to let you, right? Pull it a little bit harder. Just a little bit harder. What's it doing? Do you feel its body doing anything? What is it doing? What do you think it's doing? Just push on the body just a little bit now. What is it doing? It's trying to balance. It's trying to push back against you. Right now, if we could read its command line terminal, it would have some expletives. And it would be saying, "What are you doing?" But look at that. Isn't that fun? It's trying to make sure that it's staying exactly where it's parked. We told it to be right there. And it's going to stay there unless you push way too hard. Then it'll hit that bar right next to you. And then we'll be sad. But that's okay. All right. Let's actually bring it down. A more demonstration we'll have to do down here. So we'll have you help us out one more time down here. But let's keep going for a second because I want to show you another robot. Yeah, let's actually bring it back down. Kind of fun, right? Yeah, I have to apologize. I had the best of intentions. There's a robot parked outside over there because it doesn't fit in the doorway. I mean, I'm kind of sad about that. But if you want to see it afterwards, it's over there. I designed it so that it would fit in the doorways, and it still doesn't quite fit. All right. We can just take it, go up, and then have it come back down the other way. Oh, is that what you're doing? You don't need me to tell you that. I have some very, very smart people working with me. I appreciate their help and effort. Okay, so uncertainty. Luckily, uncertainty means that we can deal with things in a new way. Most new algorithms, most of the AI, and all the advances of AI really have been driven because of uncertainty. We just don't know. And all these wonderful things happen because we don't know. And we try to find ways of dealing with it. So when you find hard choices, and one of these choices I put up here was a very hard choice I had to make in my youth many, many times. And it still flummoxes me, though I haven't made that choice in a long time. These are, human life is made of very hard things. So when we choose to make choices, there's kind of 4 pieces that I want you to think about from a personal perspective that you and I do all the time. Right? First of all, almost every one of us tries to get data, right? We try to understand something about the world around us, and then we try to turn that into information, right? Do we actually know something? And that information can turn to knowledge, and knowledge to wisdom, where wisdom is the ability to act on that information in a profoundly significant manner, right? What can we do with all this information? Well, this robot just now, right, in our walk around, we could collect all the video data from its many, many cameras, right? It has about 20 cameras on this thing. We can collect all that video data, and that would be data. But you and I, when we walk around, we don't just see points in space. We don't just see pixels. We don't just see some pictures. We see chairs, people, families, right? That's a very different thing than a robot can see. So we have knowledge and wisdom. That's where humans mostly live. Robots live mostly with data. That's all we have. So when we test these things, we realize we just don't have a lot of information when it comes to robots. Let's let it lay down for a second. If you push the X, that's the short key for lay down. So when we look at animals and we say to ourselves, okay, well, this is a robot dog. I want to see if I can make something pretty accurate like that. It turns out it's really hard. You see that cheetah? It's not thinking about where to put its feet. It's not thinking about which muscle to move at what time to solve the right equation to make that thing work. It's not trying to think about balancing itself. It's trying to think about getting the antelope. And that's all it's thinking about. Everything else it's doing is done very fast. It's handling itself very nicely. It's doing it so quickly. Super jealous of this. I want to tell you the story of Spralita. Spralita, the cockroach robot. I know it sounds amusing. Stick with me. So the question was this. What can we do to make a better legged robot? Legged robots take so much energy to just stay standing and to balance. It just takes so much energy and intelligence. You need a big computer, big batteries, but there's got to be a better way. So we looked at the humble cockroach and said, hey, you know what's really interesting about this cockroach? If it hits an obstacle about twice its size, it can go right over it, even though it smacks its head into it. And when you poke it around, it can just wander over all sorts of things. It doesn't stop. You drop it from height, it doesn't stop. And we said, well, I wonder if we could figure out how to make one of these. Ambitious. It turns out the answer was, no, we can't make a cockroach, but we can make something like a cockroach. That's pretty good. So we grabbed some cockroaches, put them on a force plate sensor, right, and poked them. And then we poked them to figure out, what do all the legs actually do? And we found something interesting. In this cockroach on the top here, we found that the front legs, if you look at the red line, that is the horizontal and the vertical forces. But if you look at the forces, the front legs were just holding the cockroach up. It was trying not to let the cockroach fall down. It was braking. It was just slowing down the cockroach, keeping up its perception or its eyes and sensors, its antennas up. Everything else, the middle legs were kind of just there for stability and turning, and the back legs were just pushing forward. That's all it ever did. Even if it was trapped, it would just push forward. The back legs provided almost all the thrust of the cockroach. So, okay, that's interesting. Let's make that a robot. Let's have a 6-legged robot where the back legs are just pushing forward, the middle legs are just there for stability, and the front legs are just keeping the sensors up. And we thought about, what if we change the angle of the back legs? Do we get faster? Do we get slower? Or do we lose stability? What's the best angle to push it at? And then, what's the best front foot position? Should we have it forward a little bit, or should we have it behind the body? Maybe that'll be faster, even though we lose the stability. And it turns out that we could actually tune the biology, if you will, of the robot. I know that's a bad word. The physics. Let's call it the physics of the robot. I'm on our team. Yeah. So we were able to actually get some interesting insights from this. And it turns out, we're not the only ones. People study kangaroos to see what's the fundamental thing that kangaroos do. They just kind of bounce around, but maybe we can do the same in a robot. Yeah, bouncing. And then we got to this point where we decided, okay, we're going to take all these things we learned. We tested these things. We have good simulations. We're going to do the next thing, which is we're going to make this thing turn and maneuver so we can control this robot and take over the world. To make our lives better. And so here we are, right? We took this robot. It's a 4-legged robot called Minotaur, and we're going to make it do a beautiful left-hand turn. Here's the goal. We're going to take this robot. We're going to extend the right legs more than the left legs because it doesn't have a hip. It can't rotate. So we're going to make the right legs longer, and by doing that, it's going to tilt the robot from here to like this, and by doing that, it's probably going to go in a left turn. The math worked out. Everything worked out. We thought this is going to be great, and here it is. We turn on the robot. It's a bit jittery, but you'd be nervous if you're on the camera for the first time. And here it goes. It makes this beautiful left-hand turn. Yeah, that's a left-hand turn, my friends. Ideas. What went wrong? Clearly, that's a beautiful right-hand turn. Thoughts? What could have gone wrong? Dozo. It looked like the robot was slipping. Yeah, so we actually had to put this on a high-speed camera and try to see what was really happening. What was wrong with our perfect world, right? We had figured this out. We were supposed to be smart scientists, and this wasn't working right. By the way, that happens to me all the time. In fact, I count like in one hand, like the times everything actually went right. In this case, in fact, I'm going to go back and show you again. Look at the right-hand side. As it extends the leg forward to pivot the robot, you see it's tilted, but now it's hitting the ground too fast on the right-hand side. It's pushing the robot to the right because the motors couldn't go fast enough when it was higher to hit the ground, to clear the ground as much as it wanted to. So it kept hitting the ground a little too early, forcing the robot to pivot to the right. Now, it wasn't that we weren't thinking it through right. It was just that the world is really complicated. The things that we thought we could do were limited. Machines are imperfect. Our bodies are imperfect. We can't do everything we wanted to do, but the robot didn't know that. We could have fixed it. The robot couldn't. And this happens all the time with robots, right? It happens. This happens a lot. Other kinds of human environments, right? We end up with serious problems. The moment that we're trying to move around in a complicated world, we can try, but it's really hard. It's really, really hard to solve some of these problems. So when we want to think about these robots, right? We want to think about pushing the robots around. We want to think about moving them in non-ideal conditions. We can do all we want in simulation, but the real world, the real world is a pain. It is where we live, though. Okay. So I want to tell you another story of a success we had. And this is you can see Charles climbing up on the side. This is a dynamic climber. It's the fastest dynamic climber in the world. Climbing robots are very hard to build because the moment they fall, they never use building the robot. So we tether these things and then we get these nice motions. The beauty of this robot is that we can go up and down, we can put sensors on it for the first time, and then we could go left and right for the first time. Now that was a big deal, because most of the time climbing robots kind of just go up and down, or they use suction cups and go very, very slowly to the left and right. This is a dynamic climber, and we can actually change a few things. We had this robot to go left and right, and this was a great idea. So you can induce a little bit of asymmetry and force the robot to go a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left. But the problem is, if you want to go a lot to the left or right, it takes a lot more energy to do that because it has to go up and down quite a bit to go to the left or right. And so we figured out new AI. So we actually had to make a new algorithm. So this is a brand new algorithm we had to invent for this particular problem to solve how do we move around on a wall? If I was to try to figure out in a burning building where somebody was, I can't send a drone out, it's too smoky, I need to climb a wall and look in the window. Well, I need to be able to go around the window and peek in the ingress. So in order to do this, here's what we did. We were able to get this algorithm to understand the robot. Hang on, the video didn't play. Anyway, that's what the final trajectory looks like, where the robot goes up and down and finds its way over. But we found a problem. The robot, in real-world situations, sometimes has to go under things. And here's the trick. The more you're hanging off the side of the wall, the more stability you have. The more your gravity is kind of helping you stick on that wall. But the tighter you hug the wall, the less chance you have to stay on. And if you fall off, you fall off. And you're going to break something. So we didn't tell the robot anything beyond, listen, your stability might be different if you hug the wall too tight. But if you hug the wall tighter, your shape changes. And we just told, and that's all the robot knows. We didn't tell how to move or what to do with this information. We just told it this information. And here's what the robot did. We gave it a situation where we gave it an overhang. It has to go under the overhang in order to get to the goal. So the robot, by itself, decided to hug the wall really tight and move as fast as it can, make as little motion as it can, and then pop itself back out to be stable and keep going to the goal. We didn't tell it to do that. The robot learned that on its own and decided to do that. That's the kind of AI that we would like to do. That's the kind of thing we like to do. So this is actually the very first intelligent climbing robot in the world. Kind of fun. But yes, those are ping pong balls on its tail. The 3D printed stuff was just not smooth enough. It's amazing how much duct tape, ping pong balls, all these things that you put on the robot. I walk around with a roll of electrical tape that I just used earlier today. We do things. Anyway, another thing, I was going to showcase some of this here, but if you want to see it, just come outside and you can see some of the robot. Another problem is this. When you're walking around plants are scary. Plants are terrifying. Plants are obstacles. And robots, all robots know from a young age, don't hit obstacles. That is one of the core principles of robotics. You don't hit an obstacle. And guess what? A blade of grass or a raindrop falling at just the right time to hit your laser beam, that's an obstacle and must be avoided at all costs. We know that this is kind of a silly thing, right? We know that a blade of grass is really not an obstacle. But the robot doesn't know that. The robot has a hard time distinguishing what it sees and what's really an important thing for it, right? It doesn't know that. So the question became, how do we tell a robot that it is okay? You can push past this. You can get past this, my friend. So we started pushing into some vegetation with a force sensor and letting the robot learn, like, hey, look, it's not too bad. It's just a few newtons of force. You can push through this. And then we let it learn using an Orb Slam algorithm to let it take a look. And so this is Orb Slam 1. This is an old Orb Slam. And we took a look and said, okay, look, here's all these little pieces of vegetation that you think are so scary. We're going to kind of force you to go through some of it. Traumatic experience, I'm sure. And it's going to be able to go through it. Look at that, right? And it's going to be able to go through urban scenes too, where there's people and moving things. Look, these things are not so scary. We, as humans, are guiding the robot and saying, look, what you thought was hard is easy for us. This is our world. It's very easy for us. And we are going to make sure that the robot's aware that it's doable, right? So it's getting that data. It's realizing that, yeah, we can kind of do this, can't we? And as it generates these maps, it suddenly realizes, like, look, this map and this cloud of data is now starting to turn into information. And this information, the key link between turning that data into information is you and I. It's us humans. We're providing that link. And we're not just providing the link, we are working with the robot, right? We are working with the robot, making sure that it's learning our world. And sometimes that's what we have to do. The robot just doesn't know. So let's take a look at Spot here, right? So we take Spot and we say, all right, there's an image. The Spot can do that first step right there. The first step is just taking some colors and saying, okay, I think this is one kind of region, this is another kind of region, here's another kind of region, and maybe there's 4 or 5 regions. The Spot says, I think I recognize these as separate things. I don't know what they are, though. I just know that it's kind of gold, pink, blue, red, and I'm just going to break the world up like that. It's called segmentation. And it says, great, I can segment, but the next step, of course, is saying, look at the stairs. Hey, Spot, you can go through stairs, and here's how. You saw how much it stumbled as it went up these stairs and came down the stairs. It's still not perfectly capable and comfortable doing it, just like you and I would be. But it can start to learn that maybe some colors are corresponding to something that it can do. Right? This is the seeds of intelligence. As it starts to get better, right? And we're starting to get to the point where we can now say, look, this is called a door. It might not know what a door is, but it knows that it's important because the door seems to be a place that humans go to, and the door seems to be an avenue where one world map changes into another. These things are stuff that we often have to teach the robot. This is Roman. And Roman was made to go through vegetation, just like that vegetation. And as we were testing vegetation, we kind of ran out of good things to test. We wanted to test good vegetation that was under some community. So we said to ourselves, well, nothing for us. We got to go to the nursery. And we went to the nursery. And we had 10 bushes, and we said, hey, this is pretty plain. Let's buy these bushes. So we got 10 of them, and we said, I'd like to buy 10 of these bushes. And the nursery's like, okay, that's fine. Then where are you delivering to? It's like, oh, the university. It's like, oh, great, okay. So the university wants it, like university grounds. Like, no, actually, robotics wants it. It's like, what are you gonna do with it? It's like, we're gonna run into it and push through it. We're kind of gonna smoosh your plants. And the first nursery is like, yeah, no, we're not gonna sell you our plants. So they didn't want to sell us the plants after they realized we were just going to run over them with different sizes of vehicles. And so we had to go to second nursery who said, great, we would love this. Like, this is a great idea. We'll help you. We'll come plant it for you, and we'll help you take care of this. So you can. You might have to back up a little bit and have some speed first, but it did learn that too. It learned that momentum matters sometimes. It learned some things, but we don't have to teach it too much more, right? So, I'm going to wrap up my conversation, and I want to have one more demonstration. Is that okay? One more demonstration is okay? Okay, let me end with a question I get a lot. Are robots scary? Are they here to take our jobs? Are they here to make our lives more difficult, more miserable? Are robots bad? Should we be afraid of robots? Now, what do you think? Should we be afraid of robots? You think no? That's the right answer. Well, you know, and because it's a question I get so much, I've given it a lot of thought. One time, there were a lot of executives from Google, X, and some other tech companies coming. And as one of the grand pieces of a demonstration, we had a legged robot walk up the stairs, open the door for them, and let them inside the building. And it was a big deal, and we were all worried about it. We spent hours and hours making sure things are programmed right for this. And when it happened, one of the executives just looked at us like, why did we have to wait for that? I mean, my 4-year-old could have done that. They're not wrong. 4-year-olds are incredibly capable autonomous systems. They are amazing at what they do. And in a way, I'm like, yes, like look at that. We can replicate some of what a 4-year-old can do. Yes, that's amazing. On the other hand, you know, it's like, yeah, you know, robotics, that's kind of where we're at. Some things that a 4-year-old can do, that's about where we are at. Not much more. And sometimes we can do a little more, sometimes a little less. But another thing I wanted to point out from this talk, you and I, we humans are a necessary and integral step to helping the robots learn to be in our world, to work with us. We need to be part of this. The robots can't do it without us. There's just not enough information. There's no way to bridge this data into wisdom that we have. And finally, I want to talk about, are robots evil? Are they evil? Well, I don't really actually like to think about robots being good and evil. What I like to think about is capability. Are robots capable enough to do good and bad? Right? Is a robot capable? And we'll do one demonstration, and I'll tell you a few things after we do this last demonstration about what capability means to me. Okay. Last but not least.
So this is where things get interesting. This truck's tricked out with sophisticated cameras and software, but it still doesn't have one critical element. The thing that AI may never have.
The central problem in AI is that human beings have common sense and computers do not. We take common sense for granted. We know how the world works, and everything that we do in our daily life involves common sense.
Pretty steady stream now on our left.
See it? And people have been trying to imbue AI with common sense since the beginning. And what is extraordinary is, at the end of the day, how little progress we've made.
We have a whole lifetime of knowledge. And it is hard, my friends, to replicate the whole breadth and wealth of human experience in just a little bit of math. It's terribly hard. So is our jobs being changed? Yes, as we speak, every year, jobs are being changed and altered in, I think, many good ways by AI. But it's really not just the environment and jobs that's being impacted, it's us. We're learning how to use them better too. AI is a tool, and we're starting to use this better. Do you want to come up here and start the demonstration while I finish waffling on? No more. Do you need USB-C?
I need HDMI.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, you can unplug it. Yeah, so there's a couple of resources. I'm not going to put up these slides again at the end here, but there are many resources you can go to both here on campus and out in the greater web, in the world around you, to understand robots better. If you want to go pick up a small robotics kit and put it together and actually test some things out on your own, great. You want to go online and find some fun robotics workshops that you can look at, wonderful. I have some great links, some great resources I found to be useful in getting started on robotics. And if you just want to grab some motors and wires and batteries and make something yourself from pretty much nothing, great. There's great resources for that too. There are many ways to get started. If this is something that is interesting to you, if you want to start playing with robots, it's never been easier to pick up pieces and parts and even completed robots and just get started. Getting started to learn to teach a robot how to recognize your face, to recognize your voice, teaching it how to move around your room. These are all things that everyone here can do. That's right, you can do it too. Okay, now I want to give one last demonstration about capabilities, if it's working right.
Yeah, I think it's just like
Okay.
need to connect.
So what I have here is I have a little tiny drone, a very small one, just a few grams. So it's going to take off from the ground. It's going to be really hard to see, but you'll hear it. There we go. Oh, and then can we show the display on?
I think like it's gonna come in a second.
Okay.
I'm just gonna share.
Okay, yeah, we're controlling this by computer. Now, we have about 30 of these things. We only have one right here. Yeah? Oh, yeah. I want to tell you about capability.
Okay, now. It's really hard for me to see over here, but
Yeah, it's a bit hard to see. There we go. Okay, so there we go. So now we're recognizing Giuseppe here. Let's turn around and face the audience for a second, shall we?
I mean, it's just detecting the face, and I don't want to turn it
Oh, I see, yeah. Right now it's actually detecting faces and following the face. So it's actually on autonomy mode looking for a person. Now, I'm going to tell you a very dark thing that we can do and a happy thing we can do. If you wanted to just follow someone around and potentially hurt them, this drone can do that. Right? If you wanted to program it to someone's face and actually go around and hurt that person, we can absolutely do that. And you can think of whatever you want to put on a drone of this size, you can do that. That capability is there, and it's there, and you can put this on at home and make a drone that can follow your neighbors around. On the other hand, I was lost at an airport once. I was lost in LAX airport when I was little, and it took a while. It took a second. I wasn't lost for very long, but you can imagine when someone gets lost in a building. What if you can deploy 30 of these and find that person? It's cheap, it's fast, and that's something you can do for good. I worry about capability in the future and what the human and their goals are. Robots have a hard time making goals and have common sense. It's us humans that provide the goals for the robot. And it's up to us as humanity to choose how we use these tools. That is our prerogative. That is our ability, right, as humans. We set the goals. We set what we aspire for. So I'm going to end this talk with just this last thought. If you want to think about whether or not robots are going to be a force of good or bad in the world, I believe they will be a force of good because I believe in humanity's innate goodness. But there are very few laws, very few safeguards, I will admit, around robotics. And that's one of the things that if you want to get involved in robotics for good in the future, one thing that might be fun to think about is where you stand. What do you feel is right for who's responsible? How are robots responsible in the future? And it's really a question of how much do we trust humanity? All right, I will leave it at that, and I will open up for questions. And I apologize for taking way too much time. Thank you.
Okay, questions for Dr. Harper?
はい、どうぞ。
As you're talking about kind of applications and how it's really about like what humans are going to choose to use them for, do companies like Boston Dynamics have military contracts? That's an application.
All right, so the question is as we're worried about the uses of humans, I guess what humans are using robots for, do companies like Boston Dynamics have military contracts? It's a complicated answer. Boston Dynamics itself does not allow lethality on their platforms. For example, while they were deployed by the New York City Police Department, where the New York City Police Department has to go into many scenes where they really don't want to put their officers in first. In fact, one of the things the U.S. military has been begging the robotics community for many years is tactical insertion leads. In other words, if I'm going into an unsecure building, I want the robot to be the one that gets hit in the face by the grenade. Because the first troops going in are the ones that take the heaviest casualties. And they want the robot to be the first ones in. Now, Boston Dynamics does not allow lethality on their systems. So we're not going to put anything like that on this robot, obviously, but other robots like Ghost Robotics are okay with lethality on their systems. And the question we have is is humanity okay with it? Is the United States okay with it? And a bit of I can't tell too much about this, but in the Futures of Warfare conference last year, the Army Chief of Staff and the Admiralty had some real questions about this, right? They said, our near-peer threats do have fully autonomous weapons. The question is should we have them? If we do have them, who's responsible for them? And if everything's fully autonomous, are we more or less willing to enter into combat if all we're putting on the ground is dollars, not lives? We're putting dollars on the ground. And those are questions that you, the constituency of the United States, get to think about and answer. What are we as a people comfortable with? How's that for a non-answer? Hi, dozo.
What do you think the next two professions will be that'll be done away with?
Oh, the next two professions that will be done away with. Can I tell you a story? So, as a data scientist, one of the hard things that you realize is when you implement an AI solution, the green fields get cut up really quick. When there is a solution that just everyone's better off, right? Revenues go up, customer retention goes up, fraud goes down, your profit margin goes way up. The AI finds the call, you test it out, you put out a small test, everything works out fine, it's all good, right? Everyone loves the solution, but the problem is when AI confronts human situations, when the green fields are gone, which disappear very quickly. When you have a good optimizer, those green fields get sucked up in minutes. And it finds those solutions. But then, after a while, I remember having to think about how to explain to senior management, there's a frontier of trade-offs that we have to make now. Do you really want profit at the cost of customer retention? At the cost of potential fraud? Do you want, what kind of trade-off are you willing to make? And we can make these possibility frontiers, but those frontiers got very complicated after a while. And it stopped being so much, is this an easy decision? And it turned into wow, this is a much, much more complicated decision than we were making before. Because the insights that were being given were pretty good, but there was no easy solution anymore. And now the AI backed off and said, human, it's your choice. It's up to you now, right? I can't make a decision unless you tell me what the goal is. What is that goal? And I preface my answer with this story. So what do I feel are the next automated fields? Largely speaking, things that are dangerous and boring are the ones that get automated. And I'm really sorry about that. That is kind of how it goes. So the things that we're seeing right now strides in, and actually I think most people are aware of this already, but automated tax software and tax AI has come a very long way, and a lot of money has been put into it because the returns are very high. Same for paralegal work. So a lot of paralegal work has been doing this, and a bit of an aside. We're starting to see introductory data analytics, some of the introductory software positions, where we're doing some of these automated tests and things, are starting to get automated away. So oddly enough, I would actually say introductory software jobs, as well as paralegal jobs, data analytics jobs, at the introductory level where it's a lot of wrangling data, it's a lot of doing some testing and making sure that the code is being refactored right. All of those jobs, we're getting more and more and more good tools to solve those problems. But I see the opposite effect where people are getting more and more busy because of that. It's like it's almost expected now that these things are taken care of. Now you got to do the work a little bit more and beyond this. So that's at least from my personal thoughts. Good question though. Hi, dozo.
So with different technologies advance at different rates all the time. And from your perspective, have you seen are advances in robotics going faster now than they were previously, or about the same? How's it going?
How's it going? Yeah. Well, I'm doing all right. I was sick last week, but I'm all right now. Thanks for asking. So yes, the field of robotics, it's complicated. We are tied really to two things. The field of robotics is tied inextricably from the hardware and the software, right? And so that means if processors get faster, we're in good shape. But processors, we're starting to get to the point where, yes, we have better hardware that we can put for cheaper with less power, but we're starting to hit limits on some of the things that we're trying to do. And we're also starting to see sensors. Sensors are getting better. They can see farther. They can see more accurately. That's great. And as long as those two improve, the field of robotics will improve about the same speed. But one thing that we've learned from this past 2 years is we are very, very reliant on these supply chains. And a lot of these very specialized pieces of hardware means that, when we were out of battery, it took us weeks and weeks just to try to get things sourced so we can put something on. Some of those things on the back of that robot, it took us months just to get some stuff. And then, of course, building the software around it was also hard. So is it moving faster than other fields? I would honestly say no. There are some parts of robotics that are moving faster, and there are some aspects that aren't. Sorry, that's a long way to say I have no idea. Hi, dozo.
This is a less serious question. But,
oh, good. I can give you a less serious answer.
What modern fictional media do you feel most accurately depicts modern or future development?
Modern fictional media.
Like film.
Oh, yes. What's closest to the modern
Could you
robots?
repeat the question?
Oh,
Brian?
yeah, I'll repeat the question. Thank you. Okay. So what fictional work best represents the future or current robotics?
Either one.
Okay, yeah, either one. Personally, my favorite one is Doraemon, which is a Japanese show about a cat-like robot. But you'd actually know that? Nice. Okay, good for you. But that one's probably not that close, honestly. The closest one? Well, Star Wars has some robots that are close. Like BB-8 is an actual robot. Where they had to make several different robots for the different scenes because one robot wouldn't work for all the scenes and all the different surface material that they had to move on. So that one at least has some pretty real robots because they have to shoot the movie. Other thoughts? I don't know. I'm probably the worst person in the world to ask about popular culture questions, to be honest. I'm still at the age where my kids we're in the True in the Rainbow Kingdom stage. Not so much modern things. I don't know. Anyone else have thoughts about what robot movies or shows might be accurate? I don't know.
Let's read Isaac Asimov's Foundation.
Ah, yes. Asimov's 3 Laws of Robotics. That's probably a good one.
We do have at least 2 questions from viewers at home. First one is, have you heard of or seen Michael Reeves?
Michael Reeves?
Yes.
I have not. Should I?
Okay, I don't know. I would answer the same way, Mario.
Okay.
That was the question.
No, but I will look into it.
Okay, all right. I will too. The other one is, it almost seems like a comprehensive exam for you. So if this presentation had to be summarized into a single sentence, what would it be?
Human-like decisions are hard. We're getting closer, and we need humans to bridge the gap.
I like that sentence. Thank you. Any others from the audience?
Can I just
Hi.
either post those websites for people who are interested in the
Yes. Do we post this? I mean, do we post
Yes.
material? So like if I add links and things like
Yep,
that can
we
be
can
posted?
do that.
Okay,
Yep.
so yeah, I can put it back up and then we can have it up afterwards so you can take a look. And of course, you're
Give
welcome
us
to
a
come
few
by.
days and it'll be up. Okay?
Yeah, and you're welcome to come by the lab. Always like visitors.
Okay, what I'm going to do is I will close questioning. I want to thank Dr. Harper for, I think, an excellent talk. Thanks a lot, Mario.